4, Scene 3. Here we go. We are on, let's see here, what page are we on? Page 11. There we go. Page 11 with this in our PDF. And we are changing countries. So we are moving from Scotland on down to England. And we are going to be outside of a palace. And we are going to see Malcolm, who we haven't seen in quite a while. We haven't seen him since Duncan's death, when he and his brother decided to run away, which, you know, let's face it, that was the smart move on his part, because look at how many people are dying in Scotland now. And then Macduff. And at this point, Macduff has no idea that his entire family has been murdered. We know, but he doesn't. So let's go ahead and get started.
Act 4, Scene 3. England. The castle of Edward the Confessor, King of England. We are in the grounds just outside the castle walls, and Malcolm and Macduff enter.
Let us seek out some desolate shade, and there weep our sad bosoms empty.
Let us rather hold fast the mortal sword, and like good men bestride our downfall and birth them. Each new morn, new widows howl, new orphans cry, new sorrows strike heaven on the face, that it resounds as if it felt with Scotland, and yelled out like syllable of dollar.
So Malcolm's like, oh, hey, you know, let's go talk in some shade. It's a little bright out. He's like, and tell me, like, how bad is Scotland? And Macduff's like, how much time do you have? I have quite a bit of time here. And he says that pretty much everybody's being murdered at this time. And it's as if Scotland is screaming for help. Ooh, that's intense. So, I mean, it says, you know, like, and like good men bestride our downfall and birthdom, so everybody's dying. Each new morn, new widows howl, new orphans cry, new sorrows strike heaven on the face. So like every single morning, like the obituary page is not just one single page, it's like the entire newspaper. That's how many people are now dying because of Macbeth. Oh, that's intense.
What I believe, I'll wail. What know, believe. And what I can redress, as I shall find the time to friend, I will. What you have spoke, it may be so, perchance. This tyrant, whose sole name blisters our tongues, was once thought honest. You have loved him well. He hath not touched you yet. I am young. But something you may deserve of him through me, and wisdom, to offer up a weak, poor, innocent lamb, to appease an angry god.
I am not treacherous.
Malcolm sounds a little bit different, doesn't he? He sounds a little bit more grown up. I guess that's what happens when, you know, you're on the run from a murdering king. But, you know, I wouldn't know. And Malcolm's just like, can we just talk about the elephant in the room here? He's like, you and Macbeth used to be friends. So why should I trust you? Good point. He's like, I could be like a lamb that's being, you know, like served on a platter to an angry god. And that would be, the angry god would be Macbeth, and Malcolm would be the lamb. And he's like, so why should I even listen to you? And Macduff's just like, well, I'm not lying. Well, it's pretty easy in order to say that you're not lying, but he really has to go and prove himself. And at this point, neither of them know about Mrs. Macduff, or Lady Macduff, excuse me, and baby Macduff. It's so sad.
But Macbeth is. A good and virtuous nature may recoil in an imperial charge. But I shall crave your pardon. That which you are, my thoughts cannot transpose. Angels are bright still, though the brightest fell. Though all things foul would wear the brows of grace, yet grace must still look so.
I have lost my hopes.
I pressed the pause button a little too soon there. So Malcolm then goes and compares Macbeth to the devil. And he's like, okay, sorry, Macduff, but I think that you could be treacherous. You could be lying to me in order to try to make me go back to Scotland, and it's just a death sentence. He's like, so I really don't think I should trust you. He's like, even Satan was once an angel and he was trusted by God. Look how that happened. He's like, so anyone is capable of evil. He's like, if an angel's capable of it, well, then so are you. I think that's pretty legit. I think Malcolm has some very good points there. He's like, I really do not trust you, Macduff. You could be a bad guy right now. And Macduff's just like, oh man, I've lost all my hope. Like, why did I even come here?
But chance even there where I did find my doubts. Why in that rawness left you wife and child? Those precious motives, those strong knots of love without leave-taking. I pray you, let not my jealousies be your dishonours, but mine own safeties. You may be rightly just, whatever I shall think.
See, even Malcolm thinks he's questioning. He's like, oh, if Scotland's so bad and Macbeth is so bad, why'd you leave your wife and children behind unprotected? If they're so bad, oh my gosh, oh, the irony there. Right. Oh yeah, hopefully I will tell you he's gonna learn about it beforehand. Um, but I mean, Macduff doesn't really have a good answer for this, does he? You know, he left thinking that his family would be all right because who would go and kill a woman and children? Like, who does that? He thinks that Macbeth still has a line, not realizing that no, that line has just been completely obliterated. And he doesn't, even though he knows that Macbeth is dangerous, he doesn't realize like how dangerous he is.
Bleed, bleed, poor country. Great tyranny, lay thou thy basest shore, for goodness dares not check thee. Wear thou thy wrongs, thy title is afeard. Fare thee well, lord. I would not be the villain that thou think'st, for the whole space that's in the tyrant's grasp, and the rich east to boot.
So Macduff is just like, well, crap. He's like, I see how it is. Malcolm, you're too scared to come on back. He's like, so what am I going to do? He's like, okay, fine. I'm just going to go. I'm not going to try to go and talk you into this because obviously I can't because you're a scaredy cat. He's like, but all of Scotland's going to die because you won't go and come back to help us. Let's see what Malcolm has to say to that.
Be not offended. I speak not as in absolute fear of you. I think our country sinks beneath the yoke. It weeps, it bleeds, and each new day a gash is added to her wounds. I think withal there would be hands uplifted in my right. And here from gracious England have I offer of goodly thousands. But for all this, when I shall tread upon the tyrant's head, or wear it on my sword, yet my poor country shall have more vices than it had before, more suffer, and more sundry ways than ever, by him that shall succeed.
What should he be?
Well, this is questionable. So Malcolm starts out, he's like, well, don't be offended. I believe that Scotland is like pretty much everybody's dying. I understand that part. He's like, and don't worry. He's like, Edward the Confessor, the current king of England, offered all the resources that they'd need for an army. He's like, but after I kill Macbeth by either, I love that. What is that? When I shall tread upon the tyrant's head or wear it on my sword. Ugh, He's talking about like cutting off his head and like putting his head on the sword. That's so icky. Blah. And he's like, so once I take my rightful place, he's like, Scotland is not going to be any better off. In fact, it'll be worse off. I'm sorry, what? Worse off? Malcolm, what? Let's find out why. Why does Malcolm think that he's worse than Macbeth?
It is myself, I mean, in whom I know all the particulars of vice so grafted, that when they shall be opened, black Macbeth will seem pure as snow, and the poor state esteem him as a lamb, being compared with my confineless harms.
I'm a little scared here. So Malcolm says that his vices, so the things like his problems, his issues there, are so awful that when compared to Macbeth, Macbeth is going to look like a pure little white lamb. Malcolm, dude, what are you doing in England? Let's find out.
Not in the legions of horrid hell can come a devil more damned in evils to top Macbeth.
I grant him bloody, luxurious, avaricious, false, deceitful, sudden, malicious, smacking of every sin that has a name. But there's no bottom, none, in my voluptuousness. Your wives, your daughters, your matrons, and your maids could not fill up the cistern of my lust. And my desire all continent impediments would o'erbear that did oppose my will. Better Macbeth than such an one to reign.
Okay. So the first part, but before we get to that bad part, let's look at the first part where he says, I grant him bloody, luxurious, avaricious, false, deceitful, sudden, malicious, smacking of every sin that has a name. That part comes directly from King James I. Remember, that's the guy who made Shakespeare rewrite the original Macbeth, and that this one's written for. That one comes right from King James I's book that talked about what made a good king. So all of those things are like bad things for a king to have. So James is all just like sitting in the audience being like, yeah, I wrote that. Yeah. So now let's go and talk about the rest of that disturbing part. Malcolm says, I'm going to try to put this in a very appropriate manner because it's pretty dark. He shares that he's addicted to women. Yes. And it doesn't matter their age. And it doesn't matter if they're willing or not, of whether or not they give their consent. Ew. Okay, I do have to say, Macbeth has not done that. Okay. Let's see how Macduff responds, because, like, I don't know, like, what if he has a daughter? We know he has a wife, but still, like, I'd be like, bye. Let's see what he says.
Boundless intemperance in nature is a tyranny. It hath been the untimely emptying of the happy throne and fall of many kings. But fear not yet to take upon you what is yours. You may convey your pleasures in spacious plenty and yet seem cold. The time you may so hoodwink. We have willing dames enough. There cannot be that vulture in you to devour so many as will to greatness dedicate themselves, finding it so inclined.
So Macduff's like, ew. He's like, well, okay. Well, he's like, well, okay. You're going to be king. So, like, there's going to be all kinds of women throwing themselves at you because of your title. So, you wouldn't need to do that because that's gross and icky and wrong. True, Macduff. He's like, so you don't have to do that. That's not okay. But, you can still come back. We'll work with that. We'll just, keep you in line. And I'm sure there's lots of ladies for you. It's fine.
With this there grows in my most ill-composed affection such a staunchless avarice, that were I king, I should cut off the nobles for their lands, desire his jewels, and this other's house, and my more having would be as a sauce to make me hunger more, that I should forge quarrels unjust against the good and loyal, destroying them for wealth.
Okay, this one's bad, but truthfully, I think the other one was worse. But anyway, he says, well, it's not just that I want all the ladies, I want all the money too. He's like, so I just want, like, I want to be like Scrooge McDuck, like going and having that big old vault of money and then swimming in it. He's like, I just will go and take everyone's money, everyone's homes, and they're all going to be mine. And I'm just going to go and destroy families so in that way I can go and increase my own wealth. He is hinting at 2 of the 7 deadly sins. Yes. So let's see how Macduff responds to that.
This avarice sticks deeper, grows with more pernicious root than summer seeming lust. And it hath been the sword of our slain kings, yet do not fear. Scotland hath foisons to fill up your will of your mere own. All these are portable with other graces, Wade.
Okay, this could be tricky. He's like, but you know what? Scotland is a very rich country. He's like, and we have to have enough treasure chests to make you happy. Like you saw how much money your dad had, and that was a lot, and it seemed okay. He's like, these 2 very disturbing vices are nothing compared to your good points, Malcolm. I mean, seriously, like what good points? We haven't heard any good points. But at this point, Macduff is desperate. He's just like, you know what? He can't be as bad as Macbeth. He's at least being honest about it. So yeah, let's see.
But I have none. The king becoming graces as justice, verity, temperance, stableness, bounty, perseverance, mercy, lowliness, devotion, patience, courage, fortitude. I have no relish of them, but bound in the division of each several crime, acting it many ways. Nay, had I power, I should pour the sweet milk of concord into hell, uproot the universal peace, confound all unity on earth.
Oh, Scotland, Scotland!
I feel you, Macduff. So Malcolm is like, you know what? No, I have 0 redeeming qualities, like none whatsoever. He's like, I'm not concerned with like making peace. He's like, I want to party. Duncan wanted him to be king? Really? Like, really? I mean, it seems as if he has like 0 good points or kingly attributes. Like he's just I don't even know what word to describe him. And even Macduff's just like, oh my gosh, we have like Scotland has 0 hope ever. He's so upset.
If such a one be fit to govern, speak. I am, as I have spoken.
Fit to govern? No, not to live. Oh, nation miserable! With an untitled tyrant bloody sceptred, when shalt thou see thy wholesome days again, since that the truest issue of thy throne by his own interdiction stands accursed, and dost blaspheme his breed? Thy royal father was a most sainted king. The queen that bore thee oftener upon her knees than on her feet died every day she lived. Fare thee well! These evils thou repeat'st upon thyself hath banished me from Scotland. O my breast, thy hope ends here.
I'm proud of you, Macduff. So Malcolm asks if Macduff thinks that he's fit to be king. And Macduff's just like, you're not even fit to live. Like, you're a horrible, terrible person. He's like, and I hate you. He's like, I don't use that word often, but you deserve it, sir. He's like, I don't care that you're Scotland's rightful king. He's like, this country is doomed if you take over. Oh my gosh. He's like, how did your amazing, glorious, sainted parents produce you? He's like, you scum of the earth. He's like, I am going back to Scotland, even though that there's no hope, but I'm going to try to do something. Good day, sir. Good for you, Macduff. Good for you, sir.
Macduff, this noble passion, child of integrity, hath from my soul wiped the black scruples, reconciled my thoughts to thy good truth and honour.
I'm sorry, what? He's like, Macduff, don't leave. JK, I was testing you. He's like, it was a test. I would smack him. Like, I'm not a violent person, but I think in that moment, I might do it. I would maybe kick him in the shin. That would hurt a little bit longer. And he's like, none of it's true. I was just afraid that you were gonna go like try to deliver me to Macbeth, and so I was just I was just like testing you. It's fine. He's like, Macbeth has sent some other guys here before saying the exact same thing, but they were bad. He's like, so it's been a test. You win. I don't know how I would deal with this. Like, I think I would need about 5 minutes to just decompress from that.
Devilish Macbeth, by many of these trains, hath sought to win me into his power, and modest wisdom plucks me from over-credulous haste. But, God above, deal between thee and me, for even now I put myself to thy direction, and unspeak mine own detraction. Here abjure the taints and blames I laid upon myself, for strangers to my nature I am yet unknown to woman, never was forsworn, scarcely have coveted what was mine own, at no time broke my faith, would not betray the devil to his fellow, and delight no less in truth than life. My first false speaking was this upon myself: what I am truly is thine, and my poor country's to command. Whither indeed, before thy here approach, old Seward with 10,000 warlike men already at a point was setting forth. Now we'll together, and the chance of goodness be like our warranted quarrel. Why are you silent?
Such welcome and unwelcome things at once, 'tis hard to reconcile.
I agree, Macduff. It is hard to reconcile. So everything that he just said that he did, it's a lie. So he doesn't go and force himself on women. He doesn't steal money and land. And he says that he's never told a lie before this moment. I don't know if I believe that part, but I'm so glad that he's not like a psycho weirdo who goes and, like assaults women and steals from people. So that makes me feel better. And he's like, I've already gotten 10,000 men who are ready to go to Scotland to go and fight. He's like, so let's go ahead and do that. And then he's like, why are you quiet, man? And Macduff's just like, "But, uh, well, this is good news, but dang, like, I really hated you. Like, that was just, you crossed the line, man. And I need a few minutes in order to gather my thoughts because, like, I really thought that you were just the worst human on the face of the earth. And I was just like a couple feet away from you and I had my chance and I could have taken you out. And I was thinking about it truthfully. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, so it's just, he's like, I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around all this. So just give me a minute. I just need a minute. I understand, Macduff. I need a minute too. So now a doctor is going to come on in. Wonder why.
A doctor enters, coming from the direction of the palace.
Well, more anon. Comes the king forth, I pray you?
Aye, sir. There are a crew of wretched souls that stay his cure. Their malady convinces the great assay of art, but at his touch such sanctity hath heaven given his hand, they presently amend.
I thank you, doctor.
The doctor leaves.
That little bit was so for James I. So Edward the Confessor is going to be distantly related to James too, and so he believes, the doctor believes, that Edward could go and cure the sick just by laying his hands on them. Now, James I also believed this. He really thought that he could just go and be like, "Come to me, peasant, let me go and touch your hand," and then poof, you will not have the plague anymore. That's sweet, but no, that's not how that works. But so that little bit was just for James to make him happy and be like, "Oh, I do that too. I do that too."
What's the disease he means?
'Tis called the evil, a most miraculous work in this good king, which often, since my here remain in England, I have seen him do. How he solicits heaven, himself best knows. But strangely visited people, all swoln and ulcerous, pitiful to the eye, the mere despair of surgery, he cures, hanging a golden stamp about their necks, put on with holy prayers. And 'tis spoken, to the succeeding royalty he leaves the healing benediction. With this strange virtue, he hath a heavenly gift of prophecy, and sundry blessings hang about his throne, that speak him full of grace.
Ross enters.
Oh no, Ross is going to enter. We all know that whenever Ross enters, he has bad news. But let's go back to Edward. So Malcolm is just like, wow, he's just like the coolest king ever. He's so nice. He's always doing like the best things for people, and he's trying to go and like help people out. He's like, he also seems to like have a gift of prophecy. You know, it's almost like he can see the future. So everything that Edward does is to go and try to help his country. That's quite the contrast to Macbeth, who's doing everything to just help himself. And so he's showing like the two extremes of what it is to be like a good king versus a bad king. And now Ross is going to enter. Oh, hey, Ross, last time we saw you, you were in Scotland, sir. I wonder what news you could be bringing. Remember, Ross always brings bad news. Oh, no. Oh, no.
See, who comes here?
My countryman, but yet I know him not.
My ever-gentle cousin. Welcome hither.
I know him now. Good God! But times remove the means that make us strangers.
Sir, amen.
Stands Scotland where it did?
Alas, poor country, almost afraid to know itself. It cannot be called our mother, but our grave, where nothing but who knows nothing is once seen to smile, where sighs and groans and shrieks that rent the air are made, not marked, where violent sorrow seems a modern ecstasy. The dead man's knell is there scarce asked for who, and good men's lives expire before the flowers in their caps, dying or ere they sicken.
Happy to see you too, Ross. So he's like, man, Macduff, you're lucky you left when you did, because it's even worse now. He's like, there's so many people dying. He's like, it's as if, let's see here. It cannot be called our mother, but our grave. So it's not our mother country. It's just one big grave for everyone who lives in Scotland. That's terrible. Where nothing but who knows nothing is once seen to smile, where sighs and groans and shriek that rend the air are made, not marked. So instead of smiles, all you hear are people screaming in terror as they're being slaughtered. Oh my gosh. Where violent sorrow seems a modern ecstasy, the dead man's knell is there scarce asked for who. So every time they hear like the bell toll for who's dead, it's just a matter of like, oh, there goes another one. Kind of like in the Hunger Games, you know, when you hear the cannon, you don't know which one. You're just like, oh, okay, another one. Just keep going. Just keep surviving. This is the original Hunger Games. Oh my gosh. That's so scary. And good men's lives expire before the flowers on their caps dying or ere they sicken. So they used to go and like put flowers in their hats, and make it smell a little bit better, just a little bit of flair. And if a person goes and puts a flower in their cap, the flower would live longer than the person wearing it. Oh my gosh. So Macbeth is just completely out of control. Eek.
Oh, relation too nice and yet too true.
What's the newest grief?
Out of an hour's age, doth hiss the speaker, each minute teems a new one.
How does my wife?
Why, well,
And all my children?
well, too.
The tyrant has not battered at their peace.
No, they were well at peace when I did leave them.
Technically, they are at peace because they're resting in peace now. Oh.
Not a niggard of your speech, how goes it?
When I came hither to transport the tidings which I have heavily borne, there ran a rumour of many worthy fellows that were out, which was, to my belief, witnessed the rather for that I saw the tyrant's power afoot. Now is the time of help. Your eye in Scotland would create soldiers, make our women fight to doff their dire distresses.
So Macduff's just like, Ross, I know you are not telling the truth, man. Tell me what's going on with my family. And so then Ross is like, hey, there's lots of people who want to fight for you, Malcolm. This is great news. You should come back. Like, even though women are willing to fight. So he just doesn't even like acknowledge it. He's just like, whoop, new thing to talk about. So poor Macduff is now just probably freaking out, be like, wait. Why aren't you saying anything about my wife and kids? What's going on? Oh my gosh. Oh no. What? So he's having a little mini breakdown, and we'll see what Malcolm says here.
Be it their comfort, we are coming thither. Gracious England hath lent us good seaward and 10,000 men. An older and a better soldier none that Christendom gives out.
Would I could answer this comfort with the like. But I have words that would be howled out in the desert air, where hearing should not latch them.
What?
At this point, like, you're just being a jerk. He's finally going to get to it after he knows that Malcolm and like 10,000 men are going to come to Scotland. And he's like, oh, I wish that I could also give you good news, but I can't. Ross, just rip off the Band-Aid and tell them.
What concern they? The general cause? Or is it a fee grief due to some single breast?
No mind that's honest, but in it shares some woe, though the main part pertains to you alone.
If it be mine, keep it not from me. Quickly let me have it.
Let not your ears despise my tongue for ever, which shall possess them with the heaviest sound that ever yet they heard.
Ross is like, okay, I'll tell you, but don't hate me. Ross, I hate you because you're just, I know you're trying to be a good friend, but it's not working, sir.
I guess at it.
Your castle is surprised, your wife and babes savagely slaughtered. To relate the manner were on the quarry of these murdered deer, to add the death of you.
Merciful heaven, what man? Ne'er pull your hat upon your brows. Give sorrow words. The grief that does not speak whispers the o'erfraught heart and bids it break.
My children too?
Wife, children, servants, all that could be found.
And I must be from thence. My wife killed too?
I have said.
I just want to give him a hug. Poor guy. So Ross finally tells the truth and says that Lady Macduff and all of his babies were slaughtered. And they were killed in such a brutal way that it would kill Macduff to hear it. Oh, that's just it's so sad. And then Malcolm, Malcolm, I was starting to like you again, but then you said this. He says not to be broken by grief. Okay, this does come across as like super cold, Right. So as a future king, as a king, he has to be able to rise above the details and use these deaths in order to go and fuel Macduff to be a good fighter. So he needs Macduff to fight. But at this point, Macduff is in shock. Poor guy.
Be comforted. Let's make us medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief.
He has no children. All my pretty ones. Did you say all? Oh, hell kite. All? What, all my pretty chickens in their dam at one fell swoop?
I just want to give him another hug. The poor guy. So the he has no children. That's not very clear here, and I really wish that Shakespeare had been clearer here. Is he referring to Malcolm or is he referring to Macbeth? So most likely it's Malcolm because Malcolm was just saying that he's not married and he's never even been with a woman. Therefore, he would not have fathered any children. But it could also be Macbeth because there aren't any children around in the play. But then why was Macbeth so upset about only ruling and not having a line of kings? So it's just not very clear here, and I just wanted to point that out.
Dispute it like a man.
I shall do so, but I must also feel it as a man. I cannot but remember such things that were most precious to me. Did heaven look on and would not take their part? Sinful Macduff! They were all struck for thee! Not that I am! Not for their own demerits, but for mine, fell slaughter on their souls. Heaven rest them now.
Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not the heart, enrage it.
Oh, I could play the woman with mine eyes and braggart with my tongue. But, gentle heavens, cut short all intermission. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself within my sword's length set him. If he 'scape, heaven forgive him too.
This tune goes manly. Come, go we to the king. Our power is ready. Our lack is nothing but our leave. Macbeth is ripe for shaking, and the powers above put on their instruments. Receive what cheer you may. The night is long that never finds the day.
End of Act 4, but let's just go back there a little bit, like on the bottom of 18. It says, I shall do so. Or when Malcolm says, dispute it like a man, he's like, man up, sir. And he's like, I will. He's like, but you know what? I also have to feel these emotions like a man. Good for you, Macduff. Do not go with that toxic masculinity. He's like, it is okay for me to be upset that my wife and children are dead. Thank you, sir. So he's going a little bit against gender roles there for the traditional time period. So, but yes, absolutely, Macduff has every single right in order to go and cry and be upset. And so good for you, sir, for standing up to the future king and being like, you know what? No, slow your roll. I get time to go and grieve because it wasn't because they didn't die because of something that they did. He's like, they died because of me and the things that I did in my life and my choices. He's like, so I feel horrible about this. And so then Malcolm goes and urges Macduff to use his grief in order to go and sharpen his resolve to kill Macbeth. And Macduff's like, oh, yeah, already there, sir, already there. Yeah, Macduff is very justified at this point to go and kill Macbeth. And Malcolm really should be the one to go and kill Macbeth, but Malcolm can't go and kill Macbeth because he's going to be the king. And so if he goes and kills Macbeth, who is currently the king, he's no better than Macbeth. So they have to go and have a king who's very pure and not have blood on his hands. But now with Macduff knowing about his family, this gives him justifiable reason to go and kill Macbeth. But remember that the prophecies said that no one of woman born can hurt Macbeth. Maybe Macduff is an alien. Plot twist. We'll have to read on to find out.